My sister leaned in close at her engagement party, champagne glass trembling just enough to show she meant it, and whispered, "You'll never find anyone. Not like this. Not ever." She smiled when she said it. Everyone around us was laughing, celebrating her happiness. While I stood there realizing this wasn't just cruelty. It was a confession, because she hadn't just watched my life fall apart. She had helped push it. Stick with me. The room was full of soft lights and loud joy. Gold balloons floated near the ceiling. My parents moved from table to table, glowing with pride. Brianna was the center of everything, her ring flashing every time she lifted her hand. Caleb stood beside her, smiling like he'd won a prize. And then there was me, Elena Parker, late 20s, single, standing near the edge of the room with an empty glass, trying not to look like I was exactly where everyone expected me to be. The leftover daughter. People asked me polite questions. "So, are you seeing anyone? Work still going okay?" They didn't wait for real answers. Their eyes always drifted back to Brianna. She kept checking on me. That's what it looked like, at least. A hand on my arm. A soft voice. "You okay, Elle? I just worry about you sometimes." Every word sounded sweet. Every smile felt sharp. When I excused myself to get some air, I stopped short near the hallway. Voices carried from the kitchen. My name did. "I just don't want her hurt again," Brianna said. "After what happened with Marcus, you know how she gets." Someone laughed quietly. "Yeah, that breakup was a mess." My stomach dropped. Marcus. My breakup had been months ago. Private. Confusing. I had never told Brianna the details. Yet she spoke like she knew everything. I stood frozen, heart pounding, listening as she spoke with confidence about my past like it was her story to tell. When I returned to the party, Brianna caught my eye. That same smile touched her lips. The one she gave me earlier. The smirk. In that moment, everything clicked. The way she always stepped in. The way my pain made her shine brighter. The way my family believed her version of me without question. This wasn't care. It was control. I didn't confront her. I didn't cry. I raised my glass when asked and smiled for the photos. But something inside me hardened, calm and clear. I had spent years staying quiet, staying small, letting things happen to me. That night, watching my sister celebrate, I made a silent promise. I would never be the passive sister again. The breakup with Marcus never made sense to me, even at the moment it happened. We were sitting on opposite ends of the couch, the space between us feeling wider than the room. He wouldn't look at me. His hands were folded tight, like he was holding something back. "I think we should end this," he said. His voice was calm, almost practiced. I laughed at first, thinking it was a bad joke. "And what? We just talked about moving in together." He shook his head. "Things change." That was all he gave me. No fight. No real reason. Just distance, like he had already left weeks ago. When I asked if I'd done something wrong, he said, "It's not about you." But his eyes said something else. They looked tired, worried, almost guilty. After he left, I sat on the floor for hours, replaying every conversation, every moment, trying to find the crack I had missed. Brianna showed up the next morning with coffee and concern. She hugged me tight and said all the right things. "I knew he wasn't right for you," she whispered. "You're too sensitive. Men get scared of that." She stayed close after that. Came to my apartment. Texted me daily. Spoke for me when family asked questions. "Elena just needs time," she'd say. "She loves too hard." Soon, that became the story everyone believed. At family dinners, my mom sighed and said, "You've always been emotional, sweetheart." My dad added, "Some people are just hard to love." No one asked what Marcus had said. No one asked how sudden it was. Brianna always answered before I could. What started to bother me were the small things. Marcus had been distant the last week before the breakup. Around the same time, Brianna had mentioned she ran into him by accident. She said it like it was nothing. I remembered comments she made back then. "Are you sure he can handle you long-term? Some men don't want drama." At the time, I thought she was protecting me. Now, lying awake at night, those words felt heavier. I checked old messages, old dates. The timing felt wrong. Too neat. Too quiet. Marcus hadn't ghosted me. He hadn't cheated. He had pulled away like someone had planted doubt in his head. I didn't have proof. Just a growing feeling in my chest that my heartbreak wasn't natural. It felt guided. And once that thought took root, I couldn't shake it. Once the idea entered my mind, I couldn't stop seeing it. Every serious relationship, I had followed the same pattern. Things would be good. sometimes even happy. Then Brianna would step in, smiling, offering help, asking questions that sounded harmless. Not long after, the relationship would fall apart. I thought back to Ryan years ago. Brianna had warned me. He seems nice, but don't you think he's too ambitious? He might look down on you later. A month later, Ryan said we were on different levels. Then there was Daniel. She told me, I just worry he doesn't really get you. 2 weeks later, he said he felt overwhelmed and unsure. At the time, I blamed myself. I always did. Brianna never said anything cruel directly. She didn't have to. Her words were soft, wrapped in concern. I just want to protect you. You deserve someone strong. I don't want you hurt again. But each comment chipped away at me. Made me question my worth. Made me quieter. Smaller. At the same time, she shined brighter. At family gatherings, she was the success story. The confident one. The one with the steady relationship and clear future. People praised her openly. Compared us without even trying to hide it. Why can't you be more like your sister? My aunt once joked. Brianna laughed. I forced a smile. Late one night, I opened my phone and scrolled through old contacts. Names I hadn't spoken to in years. I wasn't looking for drama. I was looking for clarity. I sent a short message to Ethan, someone I dated briefly before Marcus. We hadn't ended badly. Just drifted apart. Random question, I wrote. Did Brianna ever talk to you when we were together? There was a long pause before he replied. Yeah, he finally said. She reached out once. Said she was worried about you. Asked what my intentions were. My heart started racing. I asked what she said exactly. He answered. She told me you struggled emotionally. That relationships were hard for you. I thought she was just being a protective sister. Protective. The word made my stomach twist. Then I remembered Marcus mentioning, once, that Brianna had checked in on him. I had brushed it off back then. Told myself it was normal. Now it didn't feel normal at all. I stared at my screen, feeling something shift inside me. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't bad luck. It was a pattern. And for the first time, I stopped asking what was wrong with me, and started asking what Brianna had been doing behind my back. I didn't plan to learn the truth that day. It found me by accident. I was at a small coffee shop near my office, standing in line and staring at the menu like I had all the time in the world, when I heard my name. Elena? Oh my God, hi. I turned and saw Lydia Grant. We weren't close friends, just part of the same circle years ago. She smiled warmly and asked how I'd been. We talked about work, the weather, safe things. Then she tilted her head and said, I was surprised when you and Marcus broke up. Brianna was so worried about you back then. My hands tightened around my cup. Worried how? Lydia shrugged, completely unaware she was cutting me open. She told Marcus you were struggling. Emotionally. That you could be unstable sometimes. She said she didn't want him caught off guard. The word echoed in my head. Unstable. I forced a small laugh. She said that. Yeah, Lydia said casually. I thought it was odd, but you know siblings. She acted like she was protecting him. And you. Protecting him. Not me. I barely heard the rest of what Lydia said. My ears rang. The room felt smaller. Everything I had been suspecting suddenly had a voice. Brianna hadn't just planted doubt. She had painted me as a risk. I remembered Marcus's eyes the night he left. The worry. The guilt. It all made sense now. He hadn't been confused about us. He had been scared of me. My chest ached with a deep, slow pain. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't careless talk. This was sabotage. Brianna didn't want me happy. She wanted me smaller. Alone. The sister who made her look better without trying. I finished my coffee with shaking hands and said goodbye to Lydia like nothing had happened. I didn't cry in the shop. I didn't scream. I walked to my car and sat there in silence, staring at the steering wheel until my breathing steadied. Every instinct in me wanted to confront Brianna. To demand answers. To watch her face when I said the word unstable back to her. But I didn't. Anger fades. Truth doesn't. I needed more than feelings. I needed clarity. Proof. A full picture. So I wiped my face, started the engine, and drove home. That day, I stopped reacting. And started waiting. After that day, I stopped seeing Brianna as my sister and started seeing her as she really was. Wedding planning gave me the perfect view. I was around her more than ever, sitting through dress fittings, cake tastings, and family meetings where she took charge without being asked. Everyone listened to her. Everyone trusted her. She loved it. Brianna spoke softly, but she controlled the room. Mom, that won't work. Dad, trust me on this. She smiled when people praised her for being organized, mature, so easy to love. And she still checked on me. You've been quiet lately, she said one afternoon while flipping through fabric samples. I hope you're not spiraling. The word landed like a slap. She said it gently, with concern, in front of our mother. Mom frowned at me. Elena, are you okay? I nodded, swallowing my anger. I'm fine. Later, I overheard her on the phone in the hallway. I worry about Elena, she said. She doesn't take things well. She always needs reassurance. Her voice was calm, caring. She was rewriting me. At dinner that night, my aunt mentioned Marcus. Brianna sighed dramatically. That breakup really damaged her confidence, she said. I just want her protected. Protected from what? Love. I realized she had been shaping how the family saw me for years. Every emotion I showed became weakness. Every silence became proof I was fragile. She wasn't just sabotaging my relationships. She was managing my image. And it worked. The more I stayed calm, the more smug she became. She started giving me advice I didn't ask for. Maybe focus on yourself instead of dating. Some people are happier alone. She assumed I was broken, that I would never push back. That's when I started planning. Not screaming. Not exposing her in a rage. That would make me look exactly like the version of me she sold to everyone. I needed truth. Clean. Quiet. Impossible to deny. I started writing things down. Dates. Comments. Who said what and when. I listened more than I spoke. Watched her patterns. Her slips. Brianna grew bolder as the wedding got closer. More confident. More careless. She laughed when she said, I just want you okay, Elena. Her eyes always searched my face after, checking if the words still worked. I smiled back every time. Inside, I wasn't breaking. I was building something she didn't see coming. And with every compliment she soaked up, every story she twisted, the stakes rose higher. Because once the truth came out, it wouldn't just hurt. It would unravel everything she thought she controlled. Reaching out to Marcus was the hardest step I took. My finger hovered over his name for a long time before I finally sent the message. I kept it simple. No emotions. No blame. Just a request to talk. He replied an hour later. Yeah, I think we should. We met at a quiet park, sitting on opposite ends of a bench like strangers. He looked older. Tired. When he smiled, it didn't reach his eyes. I've been meaning to apologize, he said before I could speak. For what? I asked. For how I ended things. I wasn't fair to you. I took a breath. Why did you really leave, Marcus? He looked down at his hands. Your sister reached out to me. More than once. My chest tightened, but I stayed still. She said you were struggling, he continued. That you hid it well, but relationships triggered you. She warned me things could get messy. Unstable, without using the word. I didn't want to hurt you, he said quietly. I thought I was stepping away before things got worse. I nodded slowly. Everything fit now. The sudden distance. The cold ending. She made it sound like she was protecting you, he added. And me. I trusted her. She was your sister. I trusted her too, I said. Silence sat between us, heavy but clear. There was no romance left, no longing. Just understanding. I should have talked to you, he said. Instead, I believed someone else's version of you. I should have noticed sooner, I replied. But she was good at hiding. Marcus looked relieved, like he had been carrying this alone for too long. I'm sorry, he said again. If I can help fix this, I will. That was the moment everything shifted. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't weak. This was real. We talked for over an hour. He answered every question honestly. Dates. Messages. Conversations. He even offered to write things down if I needed proof. When we stood to leave, something unexpected happened. I felt lighter. Not because of closure with Marcus, but because I finally had confirmation. Brianna hadn't just crossed a line. She had planned it. And now, I wasn't alone in knowing the truth. As I walked to my car, I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt steady. Focused. The pieces were finally in place. And for the first time since this began, I knew exactly what I was dealing with. After meeting Marcus, I stopped doubting myself and started working quietly. I didn't rush. I didn't confront anyone. I paid attention. I went back through old messages on my phone, scrolling late into the night. I wrote down dates of my breakups and matched them with moments when Brianna had been helpful. The pattern was clear. Every time she stepped in, something fell apart soon after. I met Marcus again, briefly, just to confirm details. He remembered exact weeks, exact words. He even forwarded old messages where Brianna checked on him, asking careful questions that sounded caring but felt loaded. I saved everything. I also reached out to Ethan once more, asking if he remembered when Brianna contacted him. He did. He wasn't angry, just surprised. He told me he had always wondered why she seemed so involved. None of this was dramatic. No raised voices. No accusations. Just truth collecting. Meanwhile, Brianna started noticing the change in me. "You've been really distant," she said one afternoon while we were reviewing guest lists. "Are you okay being alone all the time?" She smiled when she said it, like a joke. "I'm fine," I replied, keeping my voice calm. She leaned back, studying me. "I just worry you're shutting yourself off because of everything that happened. You don't want to end up bitter." There it was. Another quiet insult, wrapped in concern. I let her think it worked. At family dinners, she spoke over me more often, corrected me, finished my sentences. Everyone laughed, and I smiled along. The less I reacted, the more confident she became. She started giving advice without being asked. "You should focus on yourself. Some people just aren't meant for marriage." She said it kindly, like she was doing me a favor. Inside, the tension grew. Not explosive, but tight and controlled. Like holding a string pulled too far. I watched how she behaved around others. How she enjoyed being seen as the calm one, the good one, the reasonable one. She believed I was still the same sister who would stay quiet to keep the peace. That belief made her careless. She talked freely. Slipped small details into conversation. Forgot what she had already said. I kept listening. Kept noting. Kept preparing. At night, alone in my apartment, I laid everything out. Names. Dates. Words. Patterns. The story wasn't emotional anymore. It was clear. Brianna thought she was winning. That I had accepted my place. I didn't correct her. I let the silence grow. Because sometimes the quiet isn't weakness. It's the setup. The wedding weekend arrived like a storm wrapped in beauty. The resort was bright and expensive, all white flowers and ocean views. Everyone kept saying how perfect it was. How lucky Brianna was. How this weekend would be unforgettable. I felt the pressure the moment I arrived. Family members pulled me aside with soft voices and sharp expectations. "Just be supportive. This weekend is about your sister. Don't bring up old things." I nodded every time. Brianna floated through it all, glowing with attention. She laughed easily, accepted compliments like they belonged to her. Every glance in my direction felt measured, like she was checking to see if I was still beneath her. The night before the wedding, we gathered for dinner. Long tables. Candles. Too many eyes. Someone asked about my life. My plans. The silence that followed was heavy. Brianna answered before I could. "Elena's still figuring things out," she said sweetly. "She's always been happier on her own." She leaned closer and added quietly, "Some people just aren't meant to be chosen." My chest tightened, but my face stayed calm. That was it. Not the worst thing she'd ever said. Just the final one. I realized then that if I stayed silent, the story she had written for me would be permanent. Not just in my family, but in myself. I didn't want revenge through shouting or tears. I didn't want to be the emotional sister everyone already believed I was. I wanted truth. That night, in my hotel room, I laid everything out again. Every message. Every date. Every word. I practiced what I would say, not to accuse, but to explain. I reminded myself to breathe. To stay steady. This wasn't about ruining a wedding. It was about ending a lie. The next morning, the air felt different. Heavier. Like everyone sensed something coming. As Brianna got ready, she barely looked at me. When she did, there was confidence in her eyes. She thought she had already won. I stood near the window, watching the ocean, feeling calm in a way I never had before. I wasn't there to scream. I was there to speak. And once I started, there would be no taking it back. Everyone was gathered in the open hall before the ceremony. Soft music played in the background. People laughed, holding drinks, waiting for the next part of the celebration to begin. I stood up slowly. "I need to say something," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried. The room quieted. Brianna turned toward me, surprised but still smiling. "This won't take long," I continued. "And I promise I won't raise my voice." I looked at my parents first. For years, I've been told I'm difficult to love. That my relationships fail because of me. Brianna's smile tightened. I believed that too, I said, until I realized something wasn't right. I turned toward Brianna. You spoke to Marcus while we were together. Her eyes widened. What are you talking about? You warned him I was unstable, I said calmly. You told him relationships were hard for me. You asked him to protect himself. Gasps moved through the room. That's not true, Brianna snapped. She's lying. Marcus stepped forward from the side of the room. He looked uncomfortable but steady. She's not lying, he said. Brianna contacted me more than once. The room went silent. She said Elena struggled emotionally, he continued. That I should be careful. I believed her. I thought she was being a good sister. My mother covered her mouth. My father stared at the floor. Brianna shook her head, her voice rising. I was just trying to help. She's sensitive. Everyone knows that. The calm mask cracked. You had no right, I said. You did this to more than one relationship. Caleb stepped closer to Brianna, confusion written across his face. Is this true? She turned on him. Why are you listening to them? You know how Elena is. The words spilled fast now. Defensive. Sharp. Caleb stepped back slightly, like he was seeing her for the first time. I don't know you like I thought I did, he said quietly. Brianna's face flushed. This is my wedding, she shouted. She's jealous. She always has been. No one agreed. No one spoke. The silence was heavier than any argument. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I'm done being quiet, I said. That's all. I sat back down. Behind me, whispers filled the air. In front of me, my sister stood exposed, her perfect image broken by her own words. And there was no way to undo it. The ceremony didn't happen the way it was supposed to. People whispered in small groups. Some avoided eye contact. Others looked at Brianna with confusion and disappointment. The music stopped. The schedule no longer mattered. Caleb spoke quietly with his parents, his face pale. He didn't stand beside Brianna anymore. He stood apart from her. My parents tried to talk to me. My mother's eyes were wet. Why didn't we know? She asked. You didn't want to, I said gently. There was no anger left in my voice. Brianna stayed where she was, arms crossed, jaw tight. She didn't apologize. She didn't look at me. When she did speak, it was sharp and blaming. She ruined everything, she said to anyone who would listen. But no one rushed to defend her. I didn't wait for apologies or praise. I didn't need anyone to clap for me or take my side out loud. I had said what was true. That was enough. I went back to my room and packed my bag slowly. Each folded shirt felt like letting go of something heavy. For the first time in years, my chest didn't feel tight. Before I left, I passed Brianna in the hallway. She looked smaller without her smile. You always wanted to be the victim, she said quietly. I met her eyes. No, I replied. I just stopped letting you speak for me. That was the last thing I said. I walked out of the resort alone. The sun was setting, warm and calm, painting the sky in soft colors. I took a deep breath and felt lighter than I had in a long time. I didn't feel happy in a loud, perfect way. There was no sudden joy or celebration. There was peace. I chose myself. Not revenge. Not anger. Just truth. Some relationships don't end with hugs or forgiveness. They end with clarity. With distance. With the quiet understanding that you don't need to stay where you were diminished. As I drove away, I didn't look back at the wedding lights fading behind me. I looked forward. For the first time, the road ahead felt like mine. If this story moved you, remember this. Real power comes from truth, not silence. Emotional manipulation often hides behind care and concern. Learn to question patterns, protect your voice, and choose self-respect over approval. If this message helped you, support the channel and share it with someone who needs strength today.